David recorded most of the songs for Young Americans in a little over a week. The speed at which he worked was due in no small part to his cocaine use.
It was the 70s. People were using cocaine thinking that it wasn't a bad drug.
Right, okay, last section.
Honestly, that was the word on the street, so we were all sucked into that. I was worried for his health. He was very, very thin. His face was as white as a sheet of paper, and he was scary looking. But damn it, he'd go in front of the microphone and he sang beautifully.
After completing the initial recording sessions for Young Americans, David collaborated with guitarist Carlos Alomar and friend John Lennon on a single for the album. Fame was especially personal for David. Through it, he expressed some of his frustrations about his finances and management.
It was actually written about his relationship with Tony DeFries.
It is the smoke screen that was created by DeFries. It's the illusion of fame.
Sort of like you think one thing is happening, but you turn around and your pockets are empty. You think you're a star, but then you find out that you can't pay your rent.
Fame became David Bowie's first #1 hit in America, but its success only further reminded him of his unhappiness with Tony DeFries. John Lennon was an old pro when it came to dealing with managers and agents, and counseled David on what he should do.
When John found out what was happening, he said, "You need to take control of this."
David followed the former Beatles' advice and took legal action to terminate his contract with DeFries. David was able to get out of the deal by agreeing to grant DeFries a portion of the royalties from records made during the term of his contract with Main Man Management. Young Americans was David's biggest-selling album in the US to date and made him a bona fide star in the all-important American market. But the career high point was soon followed by another personal low. In 1975, the 28-year-old singer moved to Los Angeles, where his cocaine habit finally caused him to lose touch with reality.
Los Angeles was one of the worst periods, I think, in my life, I think. I got into a lot of emotional and spiritual trouble there.
He told the story of waking up one morning in Los Angeles in the gutter, some gutter, he didn't know which gutter, and thought, if I don't do something about this, I'll die.
In June of that year, David took a break from music when an acting opportunity came his way. Director Nicholas Roeg was casting the part of an extraterrestrial in his latest film. David's name was among those suggested for the leading role. Physically, David was perfect for The Man Who Fell to Earth, a film about a space alien trying to save his drought-stricken planet.
He just looked like a person from another planet. At that time, he had the kind of strawberry red hair with the blonde streak, and he's very, very thin, and the two different colored eyes.
Although Bowie had limited acting experience, Nicholas Roeg felt David could handle the complexities of the role. But the director was concerned about David's reputation as a drug user.
When Nick and I went to first meet him, he said that during the movie he would not be doing any drugs, so fine with us.
It's a fantastic movie about power, space, time, and a visitor. David Bowie stars in The Man Who Fell to Earth.
The Man Who Fell to Earth was only a modest success at the box office, but David's thoughtful performance earned him critical praise. In 1976, David released his next album, Station to Station, and unveiled yet another performance guise, the elegant, thin, white Duke. The character was a far cry from the androgynous Ziggy Stardust.
He was doing the clean, chiseled look. The outfits were made specifically to give him a long, lean look.
Station to Station was David's highest charting album since Diamond Dogs, and included the top single, golden years.
Golden years. Don't let me hear you say life's taking you nowhere.
Revenue from the LP and income from his top-selling greatest hits collection, Changes One Bowie, put David back on solid financial ground. He soon moved his wife and son into a spacious home near Montreux, Switzerland, where his earnings could be sheltered from taxes. But David and Angie did not live as husband and wife. A few months later, David set out on his own and took a small apartment in Berlin. There, he tried to kick his long-time drug habit.
There was a lot less doping going on. He was living over an auto parts store with no central heating, so everything becomes a little more basic, a little more homemade of necessity.
David's creative drive was re-energized in the new, simpler environment. While in Berlin, he produced Iggy Pop's album, The Idiot.
He'd done some really creative work on The Idiot as a musician for me. Basically, it says Iggy Pop and his band. Most of his band is just David Bowie overdubbing himself.
In 1976, as the glam-influenced and drug-saturated world of disco was being embraced by the mainstream, David Bowie was struggling to stay clean and sober. He was also determined to remain true to his art and set out to create yet another unconventional style of music. While living in Berlin, David Bowie continued to experiment in his search for a completely original sound. The result was an album called Low.
It was a kind of experiment in seeing what kinds of emotions pop music could cope with. You know, could it deal with despair and hysteria and idiot glee as well as the things that pop had dealt with up until then.
But the avant-garde Low stumped record industry executives and David's fans alike.
Even if you didn't like it, it was kind of important that it was a step that was going to make a difference, you know.
It really was the album that found the soul in the machine, that found a way to make something haunting and human out of electronic music.
Low sold poorly, but rather than scrapping his experimental new style, David made 2 more LPs which were also intended to break the pop music mold, Lodger and Heroes. The title track from Heroes became a hit for David.
Nothing will keep us together. We can beat them forever and ever. Oh, we can be heroes just for one day.
In addition to exploring new modes of music, David made time to indulge his lifelong love of painting.
David would just sit in his flat and smoke and paint and write a song.
I think he wanted to make sure he was continually doing something productive and creative. He was always thinking that way.
In December 1977, the now 30-year-old rock star surprised his fans when he appeared with Bing Crosby on a family Christmas special for CBS.